Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02 and thank you for watching this video. This is the build order. Couple of disclaimers here. One, I will say please check the timestamps. I'll be talking about this battle group, some of its strengths, its weaknesses, just showing off exactly what it is here and what we're trying to do with it. And then I'll demonstrate what it looks like in this match against the bot real fast. This battle group plus opener, it is what I have been using for like 80% of my USF games. I got a rating of like around 1,000 elo and win rate of about 50% with this specifically. So the other disclaimer here is that I'm not saying that this is a particularly strong or even meta opener, but I do think for the sake of knowledge and for the sake of encouraging people to maybe discover something new or think about the game in a different way, I think there's some value here in this particular build order because we cut some corners to try and, well, get something done very specifically. And so this build is about teching up. It's about skipping grenades. It's about getting a vehicle onto the battlefield as quickly as possible and leaving ourselves in a position where we can evaluate, can we push forward with more vehicles or sort of take a step back and diversify and things like that. So, very specifically about the fast counter, it's about getting a unit out with our weapon support center, ideally, to directly fight a unit that we've seen our opponent build. We get our tech up really quickly, skip grenades, and ideally, we're looking for the bazooka to get an opportunity if we see a light vehicle. So this opener, I think, is stronger versus DAC than it is versus the Vermont. But I'll leave that up to you to decide. It opens up with this barracks double rifle. Pretty damn standard. Then at 15 fuel, we build our weapon support center. And the really nice thing about this build order is that the fuel to our manpower ratio lines up oh so beautifully in most instances. At this point now, as our weapon support center finishes, we need to wait a little bit for manpower to count up. Best case scenario, we see them pop out with a light vehicle early on, the 250 half track or whatever like that. But if we see a third infantry squad, we get an MG team, and now we got the scout, two rifles, and an MG team. And again, like we have a unit that specifically counters something else. Zuka, or again, specifically counters something else. We can get mortar in this instance. I've seen some instances where we see an early weapons team, like from the Vermach. And in this instance, you might say like, "Oh, we could have just built the mortar sooner rather than later." The fact that we built the weapon center first, delaying the mortar, gives us more time, more opportunity to get information. So I would highly recommend that your two rifles should be sort of pushing the issue, probing, threatening territory, sort of trying to see what they reveal so that when we do end up making our decision, it's the most informed decision. But I would say the strongest possible opener in this particular case is that if we play DAC and we see a 250 like really early on, like they go two pans, grenadiers, and then the 250 as a follow up, like this is really strong against that because the Zuka hard counters that in the fight. And then the Zuka is still available to blow up cover, and our riflemen behind green cover can easily beat Pan's Grenadiers if they have no cover because our Zuka's blown it up. So the Zuka still has value in the infantry fight, but obviously not to deal damage. Then at 30 fuel, we tech up our HQ. This will unlock the half track. Use whatever HQ tech that you prefer. Infantry is really nice because sort of we skip the third rifleman. We're not getting grenades. A little extra infantry like manpower is quite good. But if you want to go full armored battle group like Greed, I've played this almost exclusively with the mechanized support center for the HQ tech up, and that sort of like allows us to like when we get our Chaffee out, we can upgrade the Chaffee's munition, and like the Chaffee can sort of punch above its weight class if you activate its armor penetration rounds and things like that. But after the HQ tech up, it unlocks the 2-ton truck, and then I purchased the 2-ton truck, and at this point you'll have almost exactly like 75 munitions, right? We skipped grenades. The only other munition spent is on upgrading our scout. And if things are sort of going well as far as capture points are concerned, then we can almost immediately upgrade the truck into the M16 flak. If not, we can still take advantage of the fact that the truck will reinforce our small amount of squads. Then we get our third rifle, and we have an opportunity to diversify. When it comes to like just straight up building the next motor pool, even if you hit like the 50 oil or 50 fuel for getting the motor pool, you won't have enough to build a vehicle right out the gate. So consider diversifying. If we've built a bazooka earlier, don't build a second bazooka, right? But if you built a bazooka earlier, consider building the mortar team or the machine gun, right? Diversify our kit. Get our third infantry, third rifleman for the backbone. Diversify our skill set in our infantry area, and then evaluate. And it's at this point we ask ourselves, what have we seen? What are they showing? Do we need to get the motor pool right away? Do we want to upgrade into bars? Can we keep the pressure up right now, or do we want to keep teching up? Sort of that's the build order. So just like an opener that sort of gives us the opportunity potentially counter exactly what our opponent is doing. Absolutely, this opener is weakest to like 3 infantry openers because we become really dependent on the MG team getting value. If you don't get value out of the MG team, or you're not good with MG teams, this opener can be kind of weak. Here is the opener demonstrated in this little match against the infantry. And I would say pay attention mostly to the fuel and how this build order really cleanly matches up with the fuel. It's against a standard AI right now.
We're gonna drive into the line and secure that ground.
And we're going to go straight into the double rifleman for the most one. You can build almost all, like, both of them one after the other. We're not really going to get into, like, capture order or if this is stronger or weaker on any other particular map. I mean, for instance, because our anti-infantry power could be really dependent on a machine gun team, any map that might be weak with the machine gun teams, or anything that might be weak for MG teams will be weak for this build, but we're not going to go too deep into that. I've been using it on every map against every faction for the most part, and I've seen some success with it, and I've felt quite some pain. I think maybe the biggest weakness with this build order, like sort of fundamentally, is that it isn't like it's reflexive. It's like we're not going super hard in one thing. We're trying to diversify. We're trying to have a
Orders are orders.
you know, like lots of different tools, and so like our weakness is like in our lack of speciality, and our weaknesses is the fact that we are diverse.
What's our target? Reference that grid point.
But who knows? Who knows? But a lot of fun just playing with it in general. The thing I really appreciate about Company of Heroes is that there are so many different potential build orders. That's pretty dang cool, I think. Pretty dang cool. Then we have a weapon support center. We haven't seen crap from our opponent. Right? I haven't seen crap.
We gotta capture and hold that ground.
I pretty much always upgrade the scouts as soon as I get the 30 munitions. We even stand here for a second just to do that, and then we go.
Let's get to it, fellas. Say the words, sir.
Over here. Head on over here. So I will say, like, you know, if you don't see a light vehicle, if you don't get any information, don't get the bazooka squad. This game will punish you for building the wrong things at the wrong time. 100%. 100%.
That's us all in. We're moving.
Ready for deployment, sir. Yeah, we're taking. Move!
What's the up?
I think we just rushed this, right? You just rush it in that circumstance. Again, keep the fuel, right? As soon as we got 15 fuel, we built this. As soon as we get 30 fuel, we're upgrading our support center. Or even retreat the scout, and then we'll capture this at the back. Right, keep in mind, too, to some degree, at 30 fuel, we build our support center. Keep in mind, too, like, we have a little bit more manpower than we typically would, because we want like 100-ish cushion to just sort of represent the fact that we're playing against the bot. In a real match, you'll be losing more models, you'll be fighting more desperately for points and things like that.
All right, let's move like we got a purpose. Double time, soldiers. Come on, let's get this show on the road.
You know, in fact, we're not gonna get this right here because we grabbed this over here. Try and represent more accurately like what a match would be like, splitting things up. If things go well for us, then things go well for us, right?
You men, on our way, sir.
Usually I tend to win the fight down here with the pathing that I take.
To it, boys. Weapon crew, you're with me. Crap's got us pegged.
Just back up. And at this point, you can see as our weapon support center is finishing, we have just about enough fuel. So as soon as it finishes, we can build our truck. Bam. We got our truck rolling out. Easy peasy. And you can see, I mean, things went well for us munition side. But for the most part, a lot of the times you just sort of end up having just enough munitions that you have the choice, the option of upgrading the 2-ton, the M3. Why do I keep saying 2-ton? I don't know why I keep saying 2-ton. The truck, the M3 truck into the M16 potentially.
Defend our victory point. We're losing it.
And we can do that now.
Enemy
Keep in mind too, I know we could potentially just build it like this, but we don't have grenades. We have the munitions for it, so let's just burn the munitions, right? Let's just burn the munitions. Not a big deal. Don't lose the truck, that's bad news. Don't lose the truck, that's bad neuse. At which point now we can diversify, right? Or we get our third rifleman. Get our third rifleman. And we have the choice of diversifying, right? Like, do we want a mortar team? Do we want the bazookas? In this instance, I would definitely pick the mortar team.
A strategic point is being claimed.
We don't need engineers. We can repair our vehicles.
We're up, boy. On your feet.
A victory point is under attack. We must act.
Get on it, fellas.
We'll let them capture that, right? Like, oh man, like, oh, what a hard game.
You men,
Capturing our stuff.
Let's go.
They pushed us off a sector.
Get on it, fellas.
Mortar crew and tubes standing by.
We got somewhere to be.
Get the mortar team. Got our third rifleman squad. We got our vehicle. Again, at this point, now we're at the evaluate point. What do we do? What do we do? Do we want to get grenades? Do we want to get the bar? We're approaching the fuel point where we can build the mortar pool. And the way the motor pool, like the motor pool and the manpower will line up is that as we finish building the motor pool, we'll sort of end up having enough fuel and enough manpower to then immediately build a vehicle out of it. All right, I think we can even demonstrate what that looks like here. With this build, I do tend to sort of end up skipping
We need a motor pool. Start
the medical station for a very long time. That's sort of the way that I end up doing it.
Hot damn! We're deploying flare!
Come on, let's get this show on the road.
Sort of the way that I end up doing it.
Enemy movement near our victory point.
It's the dark!
Move your asses. You men, get all right. Let's move like we got a purpose. Let's go and move. Get down. Grenade.
Captured a victory point.
Rifles, ship those asses.
Cheeky grenade.
boys.
Cheeky grenade. And as our motor pool is finishing, I'll keep in mind too that with this we can increase the amount of manpower we gain
On our population and upkeep.
despite having the vehicles.
Relay orders.
Territory lost.
Move. Watch your flanks.
New boys are here!
And with our motor pool
Ready up.
finishing, not quite the lineup that I imagined. I think I may have been building a fourth rifleman squad to eat up the time. But we can consider building the anti-tank gun. And I do think for the most part the way the manpower ends up lining up,
What? Take down that flag.
with the fuel, get the Greyhound. Typically I've been getting the Chaffee.
Got orders. Head moving. All in, squad.
And this, for the most part, it was the build order. Nothing too crazy. We don't really end up with a composition that seems wildly diverse or wildly different from other USF compositions. But this very early on, we can diversify our army, have an answer like very specifically to what our opponent does. This is what I've been playing with for the most part. Again, not necessarily saying that this is meta or strong, but just for the sake of knowledge and information. And I do think that I'm going to be moving away from this. But I've had a lot of fun playing this, figuring it out, playing the sort of greedy late game USF, vehicle gameplay. And really, once we get our war machine, we just start pumping out the vehicles. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it.
Chaffee light tank
And I
is
will see you in the
accounted for.
future.